I have one addition, Madam Chair, if I may.
Okay, what's that?
For your consideration, Commissioner Huxley's conduct some 3 weeks ago on the women in the workplace, and I think you and I need to discuss possible discipline, possible response to that, and I'm glad that this is a special meeting. This might be a good time to do that.
I'm not sure that we're going to have time to do that today. If you want to get that on the agenda for next meeting.
It should only take 5 or 10 minutes. And I don't know why we wouldn't. I think that we've offered Commissioner Huxley probably 3 weeks to clarify or even apologize for those statements. And I'm concerned that you and I will be, our non-reaction could be interpreted as agreement with those comments. And I want to get great distance between myself and that. And
you know what? Before I go any further, I'd like to review the exact comments that were made. At the time, I was not offended, to be honest with you. So I'd like to kind of go back and review the whole thing before dipping into it.
I'm surprised that you're not offended. I'm disappointed too. Okay. So does that mean I'll need to get it on the agenda?
I would suggest that you do that for next meeting.
And would you like to review the comments now?
You mean on video?
We could arrange that. We have a full half hour here, I think.
Well, I think I've got some other things that I want to discuss regarding the interviews that I think is really important to keep us.
But that's an executive session, isn't it? That starts at.
Well,
this is a special meeting now, so we have a half hour.
Right, but we're going to need to go over some things before we start the interview process.
Out of executive session?
I don't think that would be. Council Huddle, can you give me some? I just wanted to talk about some organizational type things.
Right, those aren't confidential. You can talk about those outside of exec session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other amendments to the agenda?
No, I'm just going to interpret that you don't want to review those today or even in the next bit.
I am not interested in doing that because I would like to go back and look at the exact video before I do that.
Okay. Again, I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, are there any other amendments to the agenda?
I don't have an amendment. I just want to add, I want to enter into the record the order number 20461, adopting new agenda routing slip policy, and it's in regard to the timing of creating agenda routing slips.
Okay.
And again, it's like any other policy we have. If we're going to have a policy, we either follow it or we void the policy. And these policies were not followed for items on this meeting. I'm not objecting to the items, but I'm addressing the fact that the policy was not followed in the making of the agenda for today. So we'll just pass that to the clerk.
And the main thing that is on the...
Madam Chair, are we not going to be able to discuss this? Did you have your hand up a moment ago?
I did, but that's okay. What I heard from Commissioner Huxley is he's not going to object to the items that we're going to discuss today, and that he just wanted to remark and for the record note that it doesn't appear the policy was followed. I also think that would make sense to discuss at a different time. I know that when County Administrator Hitt got here, he immediately changed the AGRS form. I don't know, and the board, authorized the county administrator to, adopt rules for carrying out his powers and functions. So I'm not sure if he has changed that, because when I looked at, it was also pointed out, by the way, that we didn't have an AGRS for this meeting. So I prepared the AGRS for the executive session, showing that we could possibly be in about 6 hours of meetings, which would also exceed our usual 4-hour limit. So the board may need to have a motion to agree to that, which I think is the policy on exceeding the 4 hours. There needs to be an agreement. But at the same time, when I looked at this new form that John Hitt made, it says, was the AGRS timely filed? This one that I submitted says no, it wasn't. I just presented it today. But when I see that, it anticipates And it says, you know, if no justification to include the next BOC meeting, it says per rules, items need AGRS was about all I could come up with. But in the meantime, I think John Hitt had allowed himself somehow the flexibility to accept things late, to do things on different timing, maybe that aren't exactly per that policy. And again, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I think it'd be best served
And I'm going to take
for another
It is
time.
highlighted, what, that is addressed, what you just
Thank you very much.
commented. I highlighted, and it's very
Okay.
specific.
Very good.
Did you recognize him, Madam Chair? Excuse me. Thank you. So
Commissioner Boyce?
I'm going to say thank you for bringing this to our attention. And we just gained 8 days probably on this by allowing it, as Commissioner Huxley just referenced, flexibility, or you did, excuse me. And I think that is very important when we're trying to get work done. Sometimes the difference between the spirit of the rules and the letter of the rules becomes detrimental to the workload that we have here. And so I think the policy change with Administrator Hitt and that you've also worked out, I think that's productive. So to say that we can't have last minute special meetings, i.e. what's come up, 3-week delay on Commissioner Huxley's comments, more slow down of what we need to get done. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, any other amendments to the agenda or comments about the agenda? So could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second?
And if I'm not mistaken, this is the second revised agenda. This is the one that would include the action. It's calling it a special meeting versus just an executive session. And it's the agenda that has the action item, administrative item with Riley Smith to consider accepting his withdrawal of his resignation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want, because there were 3 agendas for this meeting. I just
Yeah, we
want
want
to
to
make
be
sure we
sure
have
we're
the
on
right
the
one.
In
right
30
agenda.
30 minutes, there were 3.
Okay, thank you.
Well, as my father said, the only thing that's permanent in this life is change. So let's get over it, guys. Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second to approve the agenda as amended? I'll second it. What?
You did second it already.
Oh, did I? Okay, thanks, John. Okay, call for the question.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, so we're going to move on with the agenda. It's regarding the order accepting the withdrawal of the surveyor resignation. And Council Huddle, do you want to discuss this, please?
Well, again, as you know, Riley Smith resigned, and we posted for a replacement. I think Riley thought there could be an easy replacement currently on staff. That didn't materialize. And we were coming up to having his resignation date right now, and without another surveyor. So I think Commissioner Boyce took it upon himself to contact the surveyor. And Commissioner Boyce, if you want to just describe, you know, the summary of the surveyor's comments. If you notice in the packet, there were some. He submitted a letter explaining that he is willing to come back. I talked to him. You know, I said, how long would this be for? I don't think his letter commits to a time, but informally he said, well, at least for another budget cycle, which is perhaps all that any of us have. But regardless, that's the long and the short of it. The board has discretion to accept his withdrawal of his resignation. And then one of the interesting items is that, and again, Commissioner Boyce, maybe I'll just say some things and you can say whether they're any different than what you remember. But one of the items was he had, I think, reduced his wage thinking that perhaps there would be a PERS, and then he didn't qualify for the PERS. So, and also he didn't qualify for some perquisites or you know, different expenses being covered by the job. So with those 2 items, he did some calculations, and he thought that if he's not going to qualify for PERS with the hours, and that if he's not going to get the perquisites, that just a simple higher rate of pay of $56 versus his old, I think, was $49. And so that's in the order. So really, that's kind of my long and the short of it, unless the board has any questions. I think Riley said he would be available by phone if we wanted to call him, but you know, he thought the letter was pretty self-explanatory. That should be in your materials.
And quite frankly, I think he's been very generous with us and has worked very hard for us for very little compensation. Any other comments?
Yeah, one here.
Commissioner Boyce?
No, it's just good news. 2 or 3 days ago, I wasn't convinced that we would be able to keep him in our program, and he has been very productive. I agree with you that he's made some sacrifices. He is old school, hardworking. We're very lucky to have him, and it's one success story we have in the variety and the number of good people that have left here in the last 2.5 years. So very glad to hear we can pass this order and keep him for another year or so at least.
Is there a motion?
No,
So
not
moved.
yet. A motion to accept his
Withdrawal.
withdrawal of his
Can
resignation.
we include the order in that?
Yeah, sure, per the order.
And include, if you would, Madam Chair, the order for his withdrawal with resignation.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? Call for the question?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's done. Okay, next I'd kind of like to talk about the process for reviewing the candidates. I think we need to be very consistent in the way we do this. All of you have received the possible questions for the candidates, and what I've done is Brenda came up with a form for each candidate so that there's a space there so that we can ask the questions and then make our comments. So there's a place for comments, and I suggested that we go in order. We'll have Commissioner Boyce, then Commissioner Huxley, then myself ask questions in that order, and I just put initials for the last names there. If you look on your questions, did everybody get some of those from Brenda or no?
Yes, received, thanks.
Okay, so I wanted to discuss that before we go into the interview process because every other interview team I've been on, there's been consistency, and I think it's going to be really important when we have 4 candidates so that we can go back and compare the responses of each candidate.
Candidates for what position?
Permanent county administrator. Commissioner Huxley.
I had some conversations with the county legal assistant yesterday because I'm not convinced that we would get through all of these questions.
Okay, and so that was one of the things I wanted to...
I came up with what I thought would be, let's say, priority number 1, priority number 2 to get through. Then if you can get to the rest, great, okay, as far as the questions.
Okay, now's
And
the time to talk about it.
To have, rather than we go from one commissioner to another, we know, it's a matter of who's going to read the question, essentially, is what you're saying. I'm saying,
Exactly.
I think the chair could read the questions regardless of which way we go
Right.
on this, rather than go from one commissioner to another. These are questions that we'd like to ask you and just have you read the questions, but I would prefer to go this way on the chance that we would not get through all the questions.
I don't have a
Okay,
problem with that
so
because we're going to have...
We do.
I have a
So
question.
those are my...
Does everyone have so you would ask the legal assistant to prepare, the highlighted priority question format, and I directed her to wait until to not do it until the board really said it was something they're interested in. It sounds like Commissioner Gold's interested. I don't know if the rest of the board has your prioritized sheet or not.
Well, you just answered the question.
Okay.
They don't, but they're the same questions. So I would even prefer, even if we're going to go that, I prefer to ask questions. We've never had to go in a specific order before. No.
I think what we're trying to
But
do
I
is
think
just make sure
for
we have a
consistency, and
exactly.
I agree. That's why I
consistent.
think that the
Good.
chair should read them all.
Okay.
And I have no problem with that. The problem I have is I want it to be consistent.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
So has the chair looked at your proposal on the priorities?
Don't think
I
you
haven't
you
had a
haven't
chance,
received
no.
copy.
No.
Okay. Well, do you have them for to?
Do you have copies for everybody,
Well,
or?
I made 4 copies for myself for 4
Thank you.
candidates.
Sure.
I didn't make
Well, if you're
12,
gonna,
16
right, but
copies.
if you're going to, I agree with you.
Okay.
If you're going to have the chair do what you propose, it seems like she'd need your copy to know what the proposed
What
priority.
We
priority
could-
do you, what
we
are the
could
pro?
make-
Or unless you
proposed
just want to talk
priorities?
about them.
Photocopy
Yeah.
of these?
We could, sure.
Let me just,
Okay, that'd be great if you
Yeah.
could make 3
Yeah.
copies, that'd be good. Maybe even 4, 1 for, or no, 3, that'll give us, yes, Commissioner Boyce.
Thank you, Commissioner Gold. We're not bound by these questions. I mean, we're not governed
No, but when you are,
strictly by them, I presume.
well, when you are interviewing a number of candidates, which we are today, 4,
Yeah, but
you
okay.
need to be real consistent in the way you do it so that you can compare answers. I think that's really important. Otherwise, how do you know?
That's not been my experience in the past. But you did also mention permanent. That's kind of an arbitrary term, I think. We have an interim county administrator now that I'm hoping that we can hang on to and keep employed here, and also focus.
Well, that
So
might be
we're looking
what happens.
we're looking at spending 6 hours here today. I just, you know how I feel about allocating this amount of time for this project, and I'll try and hang in, but I'm not going to guarantee that I'm going to be able to sit here for 6 hours, so I'll do my best.
Well, you've pretty much been against this for the whole time, so
And what? I'm sorry?
you've been against hiring an administrator.
Now
From
I'm
the
really
beginning,
against losing
yes.
the one we got, because he's been very effective.
Well, and that's good
I don't-
that you feel that way.
Thank you. I just
And
don't
with
understand.
the others, I'm sure that could be just
we're,
as
we're-
effective.
We're missing Commissioner Huxley here too.
So we'll wait till he gets back. Maybe he could have assigned someone to do that.
That's what I was hoping he was doing. I do have an item, if I could
Yes,
just give
bring it
a
up.
brief presentation. It's just an update. It's not really confidential or anything, but it does involve the litigation involving the cattle district, the livestock district formation.
Mhm.
There was supposed to be a hearing in court.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you, Tom Huxley. There was, so while you were gone, Tom, we were just kind of filling time. I was letting the board know that the hearing that was proposed for the livestock district matter for this morning was continued until March 22nd. So I don't have any additional information for the board that I thought I might after that hearing that didn't happen. So that'll happen on March 22nd.
but I think you're not surprised. I think
We had-
someone
we-
anticipated that.
There's a lot of work to be done, and to have expected it to be done by today for the court was going to be ambitious. So that's all I had, and now that you're back, take it away, Madam Chair.
Okay, so it looks to me like you talked to the county lawyer. Is that true when you went through this, or?
No,
Commissioner
he
Huxley?
submitted these to Brenda Starbird, and before tasking Brenda with doing the work Tom suggested, I thought it should be a board decision to engage in this prioritization exercise. And so I think what Commissioner Huxley wants you to do is look at the yellow and the highlights, and to see if you agree that those are the priorities of the questions for the limited time that we'll have for these interviews today.
Commissioner
I
Huxley?
had asked Brenda yesterday if she could get a hold of you. I asked if you were still here. And she said you were not. I said if she could possibly get a hold of you to touch base with you on this.
Yeah,
So
she
she
was
wasn't
she
able
was
to.
unable to do that because I was gone the entire day, so. Okay, I'm looking at this, and you know, when I first looked at the questions, one of the things that I wanted to bring to the commission was, do you have a preference of some that you would either think were priority or not priority? Because I think what's going to have to happen, at least what I've done in previous interview panels, is we go through questions that are all the same, and then at the end, we usually cut off the interview after about an hour, and then the group can talk about the candidate. So what do you think about that process?
I'm fine.
You're
with
okay with that?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go with some of these questions, but I'm generally gonna go with my instincts and carry on the interview based on what comes to mind and what I think is important. So I can be fair and objective with 4 different people. I have no doubt in my mind about that.
Well, and part of the process, I think, would be we ask a question, and then the candidate will answer it. And then if there are any follow-up questions at that point in time from commissioners, I think that would be appropriate.
Okay.
Yep.
on each thing.
So some structure with some flexibility.
Right. And I think it's important to be flexible, but yet we need to be consistent. And maybe it's the math person in me, but if you're just all over the place, it drives me crazy. So anyway, since I'm the chair, I'll set it up that way. Okay, any other comments, questions? So I will go through and ask the questions in yellow, and you can keep track on your papers. There's,
I'm sorry then, so Brenda just made just these copies. She's waiting for direction. So
oh,
we
actually,
didn't make a copy for
she
each.
made these copies
okay,
where there's
okay,
some
okay.
place
I
to
got you.
copy,
Okay.
and then what we'll do is
Back
like
and forth.
go back and forth.
Okay.
But I'll just go in order on the yellow ones, and then they're here on this piece of paper. She gave us 4 of these,
Okay.
so I think it's doable. Did you get those?
No, but I'm going to make my notes here. I do fine here.
Oh, okay. Because I have to have room.
No, I didn't get them, but I don't need them.
Okay.
This will work just fine.
Who's got it? Who's got it? Oh, it's up there.
Oh, okay, that's for Skype?
Yeah, no, well, that's the battery. Because we're running, I'm sorry. This is running not on batteries, but on electricity from there.
Okay.
And so when that goes black, and then the electricity flows again.
Well, you know,
Got
I
it.
think we're gonna go into executive session a little earlier so we can get everything set up and all of that stuff, so.
Okay.
Oh,
I had a question. Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
While we're talking about organization, John Jesuit, we're in a special meeting. When the meetings are done, I usually go by and get him. He was wondering if 5 o'clock rolls around and we're still in exec session, should he wait until we're out of the meeting to adjourn? I would prefer that he just, go, and we'll close the meeting as normal, but it's,
I think that's fine.
okay.
I hate to, not that we don't love you,
Okay.
John, but we don't wanna have to pay you
right.
overtime.
All right, thank you. That's all I had. I just wanted to have that one last housekeeping item there. You clear,
Let me
JJ?
Find my agenda
Okay,
so I
good.
can.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's that? Good. Charles says he'll still be here.
So we'll now be going into executive session under ORS 192.6602-A to consider the employment of public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent.
It's okay.
So if you folks want to leave, that would be great.
And members of the press are allowed to remain, but they're not to report on anything that
Right.
occurs.
Next big idea.